Oh, I'm sorry. Hi, I'm Max Lessons, and today we will be doing Crash Course for Economics, and we will be discussing the Great Recession, focusing on fiscal and monetary policies used to recover from the 2008 economic meltdown. First, we need to understand how the Great Recession occurred. It all started with President Ronald Reagan in the 1980s. Reagan was famous for his supply-side economic views. He used top-down economics, meaning he used government intervention to create business taxes and subsidies to create economic growth. With this, he also started the continuing phenomenon of the deregulation of Wall Street. He believed this would create economic growth, and it really did, but he created a bubble, and it burst in 2008. Fast forward to 2000 when George W. Bush is president, he drastically cut corporate taxes. The deregulation started by Ronald Reagan in the 1980s was continued by every single president after him. This is what created the irresponsible behavior on Wall Street. They were asked to regulate themselves. Well, if you had a choice to make $100 million and screw over the American populace or make $10 million to be responsible, well, what would you choose? Every single Wall Street firm chose to make $100 million and billions more on the American people, and it led to the Great Recession. The Great Recession crushed Americans. Between January 2008 and to 2010, the unemployment rate rose 5%. That's 5%. By looking at the real GDP, we saw that business cycle was heavily contracting. Many Americans felt helpless. What did the government do? They implemented expansionary fiscal policy. Ooh, Mr. Lessons. What's expansionary fiscal policy? Well, me from the past, that's a great question. I'm going to hand it over to our Crash Course correspondent, Husain. What's his name?
Rashid
in Mumbai.
Hello, my name is Husain Rashid from Mumbai. Expansionary fiscal policy is government involvement in hopes to achieve the three economic goals. Fiscal policy is controlled by two tools: adjusting government taxes and spending.
Let's put this one in the thought bubble, introducing my friend Leo Saban.
Before the end of his term, President Bush passed TARP. TARP was a program that increased government spending to buy all the garbage CDOs. This program involved $800 billion in government spending, which was eventually limited to $475 billion due to the Dodd-Frank Act. President Obama continued using expansionary fiscal policy by passing the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, which increased government spending by $800 billion and also lowered taxes.
Now that we've taken care of fiscal policy, we must acknowledge the second half of the efforts to pull ourselves out of the recession. Monetary policy. Monetary policy is the action of the Federal Bank of the United States to manipulate the economy. They use three major tools. One is open market operations. The second is the discount rate, and the third is reserve requirements. The most common tool is the OMOs. The Fed buys bonds from the federal government and then sell them to the public. With the profits made from the public, they buy more bonds and the cycle continues. To further explain open market operation and lower the interest rate, we have Akram on the phone.
The Fed decreased the interest rate by increasing the buying of bonds. From 2008 to 2014, the Fed increased spending from $900 billion to $4.5 trillion. Consequently, this use of easy money monetary policy caused a decrease in interest rate, which sped up the economy.
Thank you for giving us that insight, Akram. Reserve requirements are one of the three tools used by the Fed. Private banks of the United States are required to keep a certain amount of money within their bank and not lend it out to other people. During this recession, this amount was plummeted down so they could flush the economy with money. So what this means is that they lowered the amount of money that banks have to keep within their own bank, and they could lend out more money. That means people could borrow more and in turn spend more into the economy. One important example to show how bad the U.S. economy was doing at the time was that in September of 2007, our interest rates were at 5.25%. And later that year, they were dropped down to 0.25. This proves that they were trying to put more money into the economy and promote economic growth. Now that we understand fiscal and monetary policy, we can comprehend how we recovered from the Great Recession. Through expansionary fiscal policy and easy money or traditional monetary policy, we expanded the U.S. economy and flushed it with cash, increasing employment and economic growth. Now, let's look at where our economy is today. Since 2010, the economy has drastically sped up. This economic growth can be seen by looking at the real GDP. The real gross domestic product has increased at an annual rate of 0.7% since the start of 2017. Our current president, Donald Trump, wants to decrease government regulation and cut down on federal taxes on businesses. We have been in an expansionary period since around July of 2009, and since there has been not a lot of inflation and there's no indication of a peak, we will continue this policy. There is an unemployment level right now of 4.4%.